Alright, so I was planning on doing a video with really nice B-roll and cinematography and some interesting transitions, but I don't know how to do any of that, so we're just gonna get started. Based on the fact that you're here watching this video, deep in the bowels of YouTube, it appears that you're interested in applying to Stanford as a transfer student, and you've come to the shocking realization that there's not a whole lot of good information or information at all out there, so I'm going to put some information out there. Will it be good? I mean, we'll find out, but at the very least, it'll be something. So, let me give you a little bit of information about myself, and then I will kind of broaden it out to the transfer community as a whole. I'm currently a junior studying symbolic systems and hopefully soon to be coterminal master's student in computer science. And I transferred into Stanford in 2018 after serving 5 years in the Marine Corps, and I'm now presently a Transfer 101 co-lead as well as a transfer program assistant. So I want to use this opportunity to sort of disclaim that even though I am associated with the transfer program in an official capacity at the university, these are strictly my thoughts and my beliefs and my observations over the course of the past 3 years, and they do not represent the official stance of the university or the admissions council or any of these organizations. I just want to be providing you as accurate of the tea as possible because the transfer community is an amazing community in Stanford that honestly doesn't get enough attention, and I want to be able to bring the opportunity for people to learn about the transfer community as well as become a part of it. By providing some insight into what it looks like to be one here and also how you might actually approach joining the very interesting cohort of people that you'd call your fellow transfers. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room, which is, I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've seen plenty of other videos about, some really intelligent 18-year-old kids talking about how they've got a 36 ACT, a 2900 SAT. They've done every single extracurricular known to man, including every single AP. Their mom's Lori Laughlin. Their dad donated a building, and maybe they still didn't even get into their dream school. So I want to sort of ease your mind here because although I will be presenting some statistics about what the typical transfer student looks like here at Stanford, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that subject because when it comes down to it, there's just so much diversity, and the idea of like a typical transfer student really won't provide you with any good insight on what it actually means to be a transfer student here. So, but because I know you're really curious and excited about it, I'm going to talk a little bit about the statistics and things that you might not see published but are still really good to know. So, first of all, what is the acceptance rate of transfer students at Stanford? Well, I can say after seeing the past 3 years or so, this last year was a bit of an exception, but typically, I'm sorry to say, it's below 1%. And I thought that the 4 to 5% acceptance rate for the freshmen was bad, so I applied as a transfer. I had some units that I accumulated when I was in the military, and I thought I had a better shot. I looked at schools like UNC Chapel Hill that had, a double digits transfer acceptance rate that was well above the freshman acceptance rate. And I figured that that same sort of situation applied to a place like this. And oh boy, I was very wrong. So you're looking at a very low acceptance rate for transfer applicants, but do not let that dismay you. You may be thinking, oh God, if I want to get accepted into Stanford, I need to have all these incredible statistics. I need to have done so good on a standardized test. I need to have a really great GPA. I mean, shit, I got a C- in some class in high school. I'm probably screwed. But rest assured, that is not the case. We have, like I said, there's really no norm here when it comes to the statistics. We have people like myself who did well on standardized tests and had okay transfer GPAs and very poor high school GPAs. I would have been laughed out of the reading session if I had applied as a true freshman straight out of high school. It is no joke. We've got individuals who've never taken a standardized test. We have individuals who don't have a high school GPA because they never attended. We have individuals who've come in with 4 units of college credits. We have people who come in with 140 units of college credits. Obviously not all of them transfer, but we've got military veterans, community college students. We've got individuals who've spent time in prison. It runs the full gamut. And honestly, If you think that there's a particular stain on your background, whether it's even, something criminal, or perhaps for my veterans, some kind of other than honorable discharge, or God forbid, a mediocre high school GPA, just know that you are not out of the running. So there are very practical and also some abstract things that you can implement, and I hope to share with you that will help you kind of navigate this process. So first of all, I want to talk about the guiding mentality that you should generally have when you're approaching the application process in general. And this doesn't just apply to Stanford. This applies to any of the universities that you're planning on applying to. So the main thing you should be looking to achieve through this application process is bringing a very, very nice cohesion between your past experiences and your intentions at the university you hope to attend. So despite there being a lot of diversity when it comes to the statistics of the admits, the one thing that is common amongst all of them is a perfect cohesive marriage, like beautiful, like Buckingham Palace, like probably the opposite of what like Meghan Markle got to experience when she got married there. Perfect marriage of their past experiences, their what's, like the substantive components of who they are, and the why of why they want to be at the university that they're applying to. So with that, the best thing that you can do is focus on why you actually want to be there and who you are as a person. And I'm not talking about who you are as a person in the sense that, you are this list of accomplishments or extracurriculars and you just so happen to be, I don't know, like you were in the chess club or you happen to be proficient at Microsoft Excel like everybody else is. You need to think of yourself, you need to detach this idea of you as a person from you as your rap sheet. And you need to spend time really understanding how you are kind of the manifestation of all your previous experiences and all the circumstances that created how you sort of appraise the world around you in the way that you bring value to a particular institution or environment or social circle. Because essentially that's what Stanford's looking for, is that they know that they want to bring in diversity of thought and experience that only individuals with a non-traditional background can provide. So you got to spend a lot of time. You got to do the dirty trench work of introspection and find out your true motivations and who you are and how they align in a nice way. So the advice is going to be both practical and abstract, but we're going to start off with one that's very practical and very relevant. Please, for the love of God, know your deadlines, like the back of your hand. Know exactly when things are due and how much time you're going to allocate to each of them. Give yourself plenty of time for the essays. Like I said, you need to do that introspective trench work. You need to understand your motivations and how they align with who you are as a person. Please give the people who are writing your letters of recommendation plenty of time to do so. What also could be helpful is sort of write a template of what the letter of recommendation should look like and what it touches on in terms of the things that you really want to be highlighted, and pass it over to them to, proofread and sort of fill in the blanks. And honestly, it saves them time and it allows you to ensure that the things that you want to be recognized for are being recognized. Doing this is going to save you a ton of headache. It is the simplest thing that will yield a pretty substantial amount of relief and also help to make sure that your application is as best as it could possibly be. So along with that is, once you've identified your deadlines, really spend some time thinking about where your time is best spent. I say this because I always harp on not entirely focusing on the metrics. Don't worry about how your SAT or ACT scores stack up against everybody else. Your application is your own. However, if you have the means to improve something on your application, please do it. You're going to feel a lot more confident about the application you put out. And honestly, it does matter. So congratulations, you've got your timeline figured out. You know exactly when everything is due. Now comes the more difficult component of this. You need to assess how your application looks and really start making the concessions of time and understand where you need to be putting your efforts. Think about where your time is best spent and adjust accordingly. As I've been saying, the metrics really don't matter that much. However, if you have the opportunity to help boost any of the quantifiable components in your application, whether it's making sure that if you're currently enrolled in school, that you really, really, really try hard and you boost your GPA as much as you can, or if you haven't taken a standardized test or you're in the process of studying for one, making sure that you do everything in your power to maximize that score. These things will help. They absolutely will help. They'll make you feel better about your application, and also when it comes down to it, it'll help you get in. But what does matter is demonstrating that, I hate to say it, but that you're adequately smart to succeed here, because some of the ways that universities are rated are their graduation rate and their retention rate. So when Stanford's essentially going out on a limb to bring in transfer students, especially from non-traditional backgrounds, they want to bring in diversity of thought and experience, but they also don't want to lower those metrics. And sure, the number of transfer admits is extremely low and it really won't affect it that much. But when it comes down to it, all you really need to prove is that you have the capability to succeed here academically, and that you won't be on academic probation the entire time, and that you are essentially going to be a contributor to the intellectual vitality of the university. So I actually just spoke to somebody today, and they're looking at coming into Stanford this coming fall, and they're currently not enrolled in any classes. They've got some college credits in their history, but they were sort of wondering what the better option would be between spending their time studying for a standardized test or potentially taking community college classes and showing an academic history. And you'll get different answers for this kind of stuff from different people, but I want to use this as an example and essentially just say that if a big component or a big weak spot in your application might be the demonstration that you have academic rigor, essentially, then being able to produce a strong standardized test score may help to dismiss those concerns that somebody who is looking at your application might have about your ability to succeed here. So obviously that is just one case example, but I really do encourage you to spend some time looking at your application and looking at your academic history and seeing where the gaps might be and doing your best to sort of fill them in. The next tip is going to be really spend some time learning how to storytell. As I said previously, which I will be referring back to this a lot, your job here in the college admissions process is to bring cohesion between all of your experiences and the way that you look at them and appraise them and what you want to do at Stanford or what you want to do at the university you plan on attending. And let's just say you can have an amazing cast of characters, you can have a great backdrop, you can have an amazing, all the pieces could be together. But with bad writing, with bad storytelling, you end up with Game of Thrones Season 8. So learn how to tell your story in a very compelling way that makes sense for the admissions council. Even though your story is yours and yours alone, this is a skill that needs to be developed and it needs to be worked on. So this brings me into my next practical point, which is make sure that you're utilizing and identifying resources that can help you in these sort of micro strategies of your application. One of my very good friends here at Stanford, his name is Nestor Walters, he's a Navy veteran, actually wrote a series of writing guides that help veteran transfer students sort of articulate some of the more nuanced aspects of their service in a way that a civilian audience might be able to understand. That's a big issue that us veterans have when we're trying to sort of take our experiences and take the things that we've done in the military and make them generally understandable. Obviously in the military we love our acronyms, and the way that we write is very matter of fact, which just does not make an interesting read. And that was something that I greatly struggled with when I was developing my application, is that I had these interesting pieces, but I just couldn't string them together in a way, and especially with the wording itself, it was dry, it was bland, and it just completely lacked personality. So do your best to identify resources written by people who have similar backgrounds to you or not, and see how they might contribute to your ability to articulate your experiences in a way that somebody who has no idea what you've been through can understand and appreciate. I'll go ahead and leave a link to Nestor's writing guides in the description box below, as well as some other interesting resources that I found helpful. And the last piece of advice, which is going to be, again, on the abstract side, is going to be don't just write the application, be the person. You might be sitting here at this point thinking, well, gosh, I'm looking at all the things that I do, or rather don't do, that don't make me a very compelling applicant. And while that could be the case, it could also be the case you're just not giving yourself enough damn credit, which is something we always do. So check that, think about it. But even if that is the case, consider, what is it the person, this imaginary fictional character, whether it's you in a different life or some other person who you think might get into Stanford, what are they doing? What are their extracurriculars? What are their volunteer opportunities? Like, what is the way that they've structured their life that makes them seem deserving of being in a place like this? So if there are places in your life that you feel like you could be stepping up in, responsibilities or volunteer opportunities or something that you think that you could be doing more, some way that you could be pushing harder, why not do it? Even if you don't get into the university of your choice, even if you get rejected from all of them, why not be putting in the legwork right now to become the person that you are wholly certain is so compelling and so interesting that they would not ever get denied from a university that espouses to be aligned with the values that you may project. And there's a subtle distinction here that needs to be made. Doing this versus doing it because you think it'll help you get into the university that you want to go to. That's where it gets really convoluted, and this is where that self-awareness of your intentions comes into play. Because if you think that by doing this altruistic thing or this extracurricular or this you name it, will eventually make you happy because it gets you into the university that you want to go to, you're wrong. And this is the last point that I really want to make. You need to divorce yourself from the idea that getting into your dream university is going to make you happy. So bear with me here. This is how it's going to go. One day you're going to be sitting at home doing whatever you do, and you're going to get an email saying that the application portal has been updated, and your heart's going to be racing and your palms are going to be sweaty, and you're going to go open up that email. And one of two things are going to happen. You're going to see a C for congratulations, in which you will not read anything after that word because you know that it's a sealed deal. Or you're going to see like a "we're sorry" or "we regret to inform you," and then you're going to read the entire letter thinking that maybe later on they're going to say, "Oh, by the way, just kidding, you've been accepted." But so you have those two outcomes. And in the second one, you're going to feel terrible because you put this version of yourself out and you were deemed to be insufficient, essentially. And that is deeply troubling and not a great feeling. Or on the flip side, if you get accepted, you've been judged to be sufficient. You've been judged to be good enough. You've been judged to be superior than 99.87% of the other applicants. And you're going to feel really good about that. And you're going to finally feel all that work that I've been putting in, all that time that I spent on the application, all this other stuff that I've been doing, all these experiences in my life, finally it's paid off. Now I've made it. And that's where you're going to be wrong, because give it 2 months, you'll still be riding on that high, and you finally show up to campus, and then maybe 2-3 weeks after that, the same reason you were so excited to come to this school and the same reason you were so happy to be there is going to be the same exact reason you find yourself incredibly unhappy, borderline miserable sometimes. The people around you are going to be incredibly high achieving. They are going to be incredibly intelligent. They're going to be phenomenal athletes. They're going to be Olympians. They're going to be insert your incredible accomplishment here. And honestly, like, a lot of people go through life like only meeting dumb beautiful people or smart ugly people. Chances are you're going to find some really, really well-adjusted, sociable, charismatic, attractive, intelligent people at whatever university you end up at. And sometimes that's hard. Like, for somebody like me who I spent a lot of time trying to glow up, that's a bit of an intimidating environment to be in. So you're now in a place where you're constantly feeling inadequate. And at first it's going to be an incredibly unpleasant experience, because to go from thinking that you'd finally made it and that all this work is paid off and now you're worthy of your own self-praise and worthy of your own self-love, it's now a bit dissipated. So I'm going to argue that that's a good thing, though, because if you constantly feel like you're the smartest person in the room and that you're the best person in the room, there's only a couple options there. You're either a narcissist, or Elon Musk, which I guess in a way is kind of similar, or you're just in the wrong place for your self-development, because a little bit of inadequacy is a great fuel for pushing motivation. And of course, if it gets out of hand, it can be a terrible detriment to your mental health. But just know that striving to be in an environment full of people who constantly make you question if you're good enough might just be the right track. But then, of course, being happy in a place like this isn't an easy task. And while this video is the incomplete guide to transferring into Stanford, I don't think I have the materials ready for an incomplete guide on how to be happy here, but maybe someday. Once again, in the pursuit of sponsorships from obscure VPN companies and skinny teas, I will probably seek to put that video out someday, but I haven't quite figured it out yet. Maybe one of you guys will. And while I understand that some of the advice is just not very concrete, I hope that the mentality or the purpose or the intent behind them resonates with at least a few of you. And I hope that as you approach this process, you really take away some great insight about yourself as a person and the value that you're going to bring to wherever you end up. Take it easy, guys.